Hey guys, Vahlkx here, and today I'm going to go over my Whiff of Light build following the new buff it recently got. Now, I do want to say that this weapon isn't the greatest thing. Now, obviously, it is better than it was before, but if we compare it to other weapons and, from my testing and stuff, it's not like a favorite of mine. I'd rather use other weapons, but it's still decent. It still does like decent damage and stuff, but I'm just going to get into the build and talk about the weapon. We're going to talk about the changes they've made first. And so now when you reload and you get the Solar Halo buff, you're going to have a lot more decreased recoil. So there's pretty much nothing there. It's going to have like pinpoint accuracy. And then following that, they also increase the crit rate. And so you're going to be having 100% crit rate. After that, when you hit an enemy while you have the buff on, it'll create Twilight. And that's going to be like a little sphere that spawns around the enemy. And that will, just apply weaken on them for 10 seconds. And then on top of that, if we, damage the enemy while they have that debuff on them, we will be getting now a firearm attack, which is a nice little feature they've added to it. As for these substats, so I currently have firearm crit hit damage, firearm attack, and weak point damage. So right there, hip fire accuracy is kind of just a placeholder because I did run out of mats to actually re-roll. But for that one, if you plan on using it for Colossus, get Colossus damage. Or if you want to have kind of more consistency both in and out of Colossus battles, you can do any kind of element because this weapon crits a lot. So having an element will be very beneficial since elements only scale off of crits. Now I'm going to get into the weapon mods pretty quickly. So we're going to start off here with firearm attack mods. After that, we'll be boosting crit hit damage. So we've got the 2 mods there. And we're not going to be doing crit hit rate because we don't need that with the reload buff we get from this weapon and the, special ability it has. After that, I've got fire rate, and I'm using the purple one and not the blue one because when I compared the two, it looked like the same number of bullets were going off while the, reload buff was on with the weapon. So you might as well get the extra damage with the purple one. Now, this whole bottom row is kind of up to you to pick and choose. This is what I'm going to be running for now because I don't want to invest any more into the weapon, but what we're going to be doing is for sure running this weak point right here. And if you want to add even more weak points that just stack even more damage, you want to have focus fire right here, or you can catalyze the slot again and put have aiming. Because the weapon also comes with this R slot, we're just going to slot in toxic enhancement to get a little bit of damage boost. And, with crit damage kind of being the whole thing about this weapon, having an element is not bad at all. After that, we've got reload focus, and for this one, similar to the fire rate one, it's up to you to choose between the blue and the purple mod, but I prefer the purple one just to slightly boost up damage. Finally, for my special mod, I'm using real life fighter, and I pretty much use this on a majority of my weapon builds, and this is also really good for bossing, but if you don't want to use it, you can easily swap it out with weak point expansion. I wouldn't suggest this mod. I did compare the two, and obviously we're not going to benefit out of the crit rate we get from this one because we'll have 100% when we reload. And then on top of that, the modifier for the crit hit damage is a lot lower than this weak point that we're getting. So our damage is going to scale a lot higher with this one, and it's already the same socket type, so it's easy swapping right there. What's also nice about this build I currently have is that if you were to swap it to weak point expansion, pretty much when you get the full mag off and then reload, the cooldown for the mod will be up. So pretty much every mag you're shooting will have 1 bullet hitting with this weak point expansion buff on. Before I do move on from the mods, I do want to talk about like some different things you can do with this setup. And so like I said earlier, you could catalyze this slot right here to an M, and that will allow you to have aiming if you want to boost up damage right there. But what you can also do is just completely take it out and just add in another reload mod there. Now, if you do have 2 reload mods with concentration priority, reload will be 1.6. But then if we switch concentration here for something else, which would be target detection, we'll still get a little bit, damage boost there, but then it will bring the reload down even further. So if you are trying to like reload stack the weapon, that is an option you can do. And as you can see, after I kind of replace all those mods, I can fit that into, this other build right here. But for this slot right here, I personally don't see myself kind of catalyzing or like investing more into it. I'm fine with how it is like this or with like the previous build I showed. I just, don't want to put any more into it because I don't think it's the greatest thing, like personally. For my thoughts about this weapon, so Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I don't think it's the greatest thing. There are definitely other weapons you should prioritize before this one, but because I kind of built those ones up already, and then also wanted to try this out with the new buff, I wanted to see how well it performed. Right now, it does pretty decent damage, so if you were to take this into bossing, there are just better weapons out there like the Enduring or Greg's. So it's hard to kind of compare those with, those two weapons kind of existing. Outside of bossing, it would fare well. Pretty much every weapon would. So if you want to take it in there, go right ahead. My main problem with the weapon right now is the fact that ammo is very scarce for this. So if you were to take it into bossing and kind of solely just use this weapon, you are going to run out of ammo before you can even do much. Now the only case where this doesn't really matter is Devour, because this boss is just so weak. But for everything else, you kind of just run out of ammo before you can really kill them. So you are gonna swap to a different weapon or whatever. But obviously, with that being said, this weapon is kind of a nice like backup if you do run out of ammo and everything else. So it's not like a bad option. I just personally wouldn't use it over anything else. You can use this weapon on pretty much any Descendant, it's a gun, but the ones it'll excel more with are going to be Haley, and that's because of her passive right here for increasing weak point damage. And so you can keep range, especially since this is a scout rifle, so you're going to be pretty accurate regardless, and you can just get that bonus damage right there. And then if you top that off with cryo rounds, you're going to be doing extra damage as you deplete the stacks there. And then the last one is just her third ability, which will just increase the crit hit damage right there. After that, there's also Enzo, and so if you have the firearm enhancer buff, you can just place that down and get that right there to just increase damage. And then there's also the ammo that you get, and same thing with his ult, that'll help just increase damage a little bit and also give you a little bit ammo, because like I talked about, the problem with this weapon is kind of ammo if you were to just solely use that. As for the other Descendants like Vahlkx and her Supply Moisture mod, you're only getting a crit rate buff, which you don't need when you're reloading the weapon, so it's not going to be that beneficial using it on her. And then there's Glay for her unlimited ammo. Now ideally, you want to reload with this weapon to get the buff, and if you're using unlimited ammo on Glay, you're not going to be reloading, so with Vahlkx and Glay, you're not really benefiting much with the weapon. So that's why Enzo and Haley would be better options. But again, you can just use this on anyone you want. Anyways, that does it here for my Wave of Light build. And so, like I mentioned earlier, I personally don't see myself using it that much. I just would prefer to use other weapons. But if you guys like scout rifles, or if you like the buff to the Wave of Light now, I would definitely say it's decent to be building up if you want. It's a lot better than before. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope it helped, and I'll see you guys in the next one.